So you might have got the message if you've been watching any of my videos recently, but Pokemon Legends Arceus is basically everything that I have hoped and dreamed for out of a Pokemon game for the past 10 to 15 years, and it has all of the potential in the world to be so unbelievably special. Today we are going to be having one of our longer form conversations that we typically have every Thursday on the channel, or have been for the past few weeks, and I'm actually going to be doing it solo this time. However, it's going to be a really fun time regardless, because I am going to be talking about my biggest hopes for Pokemon Legends Arceus in today's video that is going to be 2 parts, with the first one, of course, being here. These hopes are not in any particular order or anything like that. They are just what, at this point, I consider to be my 10 biggest hopes for the game. The things that I really, really want to see in the game, and if indeed they do happen, it's going to make for such a special experience. Now, as I just mentioned, these are simply my 10 biggest hopes for the game in general. They're not in any particular order or anything like that, and with that being said, the first one I want to talk about is past versions of familiar locations within Sinnoh being included in this game. What I mean by that is, for instance, we know Mount Coronet is going to be in the game. That is a location that obviously we saw in the original Diamond and Pearl that we're also going to be able to see in this past setting in Pokemon Legends Arceus. I want to see more familiar locations from Sinnoh as well, such as earlier versions of towns in this game. Similar landmarks, like maybe some of the lakes that are so important to the Sinnoh region. And overall, just be able to see that even though this is a vastly different Sinnoh region, it is an untamed Sinnoh region, it's still the same Sinnoh region we know and love, and I want to be able to look at it and see for myself with my own eyes that, yes, this is Sinnoh, I recognize this place, and be able to feel like I'm in a familiar place instead of the game just saying, hey, this is the Sinnoh region. Also, just imagine what it would be like if we get to see early primitive versions of classic places like Jubilife City, or Canalave City, or Sunyshore City. Places like that, we get to see them in their more primitive state. Maybe we even get to see the founding of these areas, since as the trailer states, Sinnoh is basically being settled for the first time during the events of this game. Things like that would be phenomenal to see. It's something I do kind of feel like will happen, just because I don't know. I feel really good about it. It doesn't seem like that's the kind of thing they would miss the mark on or just not include altogether. So I feel like to some degree this is going to happen. I'm just crossing my fingers in the meantime until we get confirmation, because it would be absolutely awesome to see. Another hope I have for the game that kind of goes hand in hand with being able to see past versions of familiar locations from the Sinnoh region is being able to be introduced to ancestors of characters from the modern Sinnoh games. Once again, it would be mind-blowingly cool if the new characters that we get introduced to in this game are largely comprised of characters that are the ancestors to the ones that we know from Diamond and Pearl. Like, imagine being able to see Cynthia's ancestors, or Cyrus's ancestors, or Rourke's ancestors, or literally anybody's ancestors, being able to be introduced to them and being able to see their family lineage, see their backstory, see the lore of what made Sinnoh Sinnoh in the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl that we have already played and we know and love. That would be so phenomenal. I do imagine that we're going to naturally be introduced to brand new characters that don't necessarily have any distinct connection to the modern Pokemon Diamond and Pearl and the modern Sinnoh region, because that's to be expected. We can't really expect every single character, every single element to basically be an older version of what was already there. However, it would just be such a cherry on top, just such a beautiful type of thing that would add so much to this game, to be able to meet Cynthia's great-great-grandfather, or be able to meet Volkner's great-great-grandmother, or just something to that effect. I really, really want to be able to see it. With the player characters looking so much like Lucas and Dawn, it hasn't been confirmed yet because we don't know their names or anything, but a lot of people are speculating that these might be Lucas and Dawn's ancestors. And that's another thing I would really, really love to see confirmed, because it would just, once again, add to the lore, add to the heritage, add to the amazingness of this game to be able to kind of have those connections and start a lore and start a story and start just kind of a chronicle, if you will, for the Sinnoh region that dates back several hundred years. It would be phenomenal, and I really hope we get to see it happen. Okay, so this next one is actually a really big one. It's one that I've seen a few different people bring up since the game was revealed, and while I personally am not really that concerned as to this not being in the game, it's something we don't know about, and I'm really hoping that it is at the same time, just because if it wasn't, it would be a big missed opportunity, and that is the idea of trainers being in the overworld and being able to battle trainers in some way, or at the very least be able to interact with NPCs in the overworld. Because as we see in the reveal trailer, this overworld that we're going to be able to explore in Pokemon Legends Arceus is very open. It's very big, it's very just Breath of the Wild-esque, and with this kind of open world, the main thing you always have a concern about is how full is the world going to be? Is it just going to be a big series of fields and trees and not have any substance to it, or is it going to be populated with people that we can interact with? And I think this is a valid concern, because one of the things that the DLCs were missing in their open worlds, for Sword and Shield that is, are trainers in the overworld of the Isle of Armor and the Crown Tundra. And that would have added a lot to those DLCs if they would have even included just a couple of people that you could interact with in that way in the overworld. So hopefully they do include that in this game. Like I said, I'm not that concerned about this not being there, because I can't imagine we would go through a whole game and not find anyone in the overworld. It kind of makes sense in some way for the Sword and Shield DLCs, because they are DLCs, it's not the full game. But with this literally being what this game is, I can't imagine that we wouldn't come across an NPC that we need to talk to do a side quest, or someone we need to battle, or something to that effect. The battles themselves are going to be interesting, because we know from the reveal trailer that the Pokemon League and Pokemon gyms and things like that, they haven't been established yet at this time. So it'll be interesting to see how Pokemon battles in general work in this game. We might not have the Pokemon League, we might not have Pokemon gyms, but I imagine battling Pokemon would still be a thing at this time, so it'll be really interesting to see how that pans out, and I really hope that is the case, because, once again, just imagine exploring this world, you're going about your business, you're catching these Pokemon, you're hunting them down, and every once in a while you just stumble across a trainer that you can battle, and it kind of shakes up the gameplay, or you stumble across an NPC that needs your help with a side quest. Things like this. Oh, that would be so awesome. And to add on to this point, another thing that kind of goes hand in hand with it are other towns as well, because we saw the starting town that you live in that was described as your base of operations for the game, but that's the only settlement we saw, and it was stated that the Sinnoh region is very much still an untamed wilderness. So I am very much hoping as well that we will see additional towns in the game as well, and it's not just this one. I feel pretty confident that that will be the case, because that would kind of just be very dumb to have only one town in a game like this. I think it almost goes without saying that there will be, but because we haven't seen it confirmed, I just wanted to throw it out there that that is also something that I'm really hoping for as well. And going along with the idea of talking about the world, another thing I want to see in Pokemon Legends Arceus is a big world. We know that we are getting an open world adventure in this game, which, as I said earlier at the beginning of the video, is something many of us have been hoping for so long, and even though this is our first exposure to it, it's the first real time that Game Freak is trying something like this, I really hope they do a good job of making a splash into this genre, because I totally understand that it's a big deal, it's a big thing to take on, and I don't really expect it to be perfect this first time around since it's such a big undertaking, but at the same time, I really hope they make the Sinnoh region in this game a sizable, just big open sandbox that we can explore, and when you get from end to end, you feel satisfied, you feel good about the land that you just traversed. I don't necessarily expect it to be as big as Skyrim or Breath of the Wild, for instance, but I really hope it has a good size to it, to the point where when you get to the edge of the map, you feel like, okay, I can live with this. This doesn't feel like it's too small, or it doesn't feel like I'm really wanting more. I feel satisfied. I want to feel satisfied when I'm exploring this map, and I don't want to feel constrained by the borders of the region once I eventually get to them. So I'm hoping that there will be plenty of terrain to explore in this game, and I'm also hoping there's a variety as well. I mean, we do know that Sinnoh is a very snowy region, so I anticipate there'll be snowy areas. We kind of know what to expect as well in terms of the rest of the geography, but with it being so vastly different, I hope we get to see forests, I hope we get to see plains, I hope we get to see jagged mountains, I hope we get to see, I mean, we've seen a lot of rivers and lakes and ponds just sort of weaving their way all throughout the landscape, and I hope these are things we will be able to explore as well. It would be really cool if we could swim in some way, or obviously use surf on a Pokemon in some way. I imagine that'll be a thing too. I just hope there's a lot of exploration options, and the game gives us a big place to explore. My fifth hope, which is also the final one I'm going to be talking about in this video before we move over to the other UCast Studios gaming channel, since this is our longer podcast-esque series that we've been doing for the past few weeks, is voice acting. It feels like I've been requesting voice acting in Pokemon games for a while, and I really wanted it with Pokemon Sword and Shield, and we didn't get it. And I feel like Pokemon Sword and Shield, more than ever, showed how we are to a point where voice acting, to some degree, needs to be in Pokemon, because there were a lot of points in Sword and Shield where it just felt kind of silent, kind of empty when the players were talking and conversing, and there were a lot of strong moments that just lacked the strength that they were portraying because there was no voice behind the words. It just felt kind of silent. So I really hope they make that next step in this game and finally bring voice acting to the series. That would obviously make a lot of sense, in the sense that this game is clearly very heavily inspired by Breath of the Wild, and Zelda brought voice acting to Zelda with Breath of the Wild. So it would only make sense for Pokemon to do the same for Pokemon with this game that is heavily inspired by Breath of the Wild. And it doesn't necessarily have to be full-blown, just every character and NPC having voice acting. That's not really what I'm expecting. I would be completely happy with just major characters in cutscenes having voice acting, and that could be it. That would be totally fine. Anything else after that, whether it's NPCs having dialogue, or maybe just having minor characters have predetermined just little quips that they say every time you talk to them, like you see in RPGs from time to time, all of that would be a bonus. I just want to have basic voice acting and important moment voice acting, and I will be a happy camper. That is another thing I think just needs to be here. It's to the point where we're to that point in Pokemon's progression where this needs to be a thing, and if it's there, it's just going to add such a beautiful layer to this game, and it's just going to make it that much better. And so that is exactly why I'm hoping for it. And with that, we might as well go ahead and move on, but like I said, that is going to be over on the UCast Studios gaming channel, so we can have this longer form discussion, so be sure to head on over there and subscribe to that channel as well, because we do this every week. And as far as here, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, be sure to leave a like and all that good stuff if you enjoyed, and I will be back very soon with another one as well, so be sure once again to subscribe if you haven't for that. And until then, as always, I love you guys, thanks again for watching, and I will smell you guys later.